Welcome to the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and share their inspiring stories. Now, let's get started with the show.
Matthew Connor here, host of the Cyber Business Podcast. Today, we're joined by Sue Cheema, CIO at Jedi. Sue, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Before we get too far in, a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. Do you know if a hacker's in your system? Most people and most companies don't until it's too late and the hacker's already done damage. A hacker's job is to bypass your security, so companies need a way of knowing when someone's gotten past theirs. That's where Cyberlinks comes in. We partnered with the best cybersecurity companies in the world to be able to provide our clients with the best solutions at the best prices. So whether it's managed SIM, SOC, EDR, MDR, XDR, you name it, we'll help you find the right solution at the best price. Find out more at cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. And now back to our show. Sue, for those who aren't familiar, can you tell us about Jedi and your role there as CIO?
Yeah, so we launched Jedi on March 4th, as exciting as that sounds.
I love it.
So basically a little bit about what I do, how Jedi came to be. I worked with Elite. I've been in consulting for almost a decade. Elite was one of my clients. And I'm doing all this work for Elite, a lot of analytics. And Frank, who's the CEO of Elite, is like, I love what you do. I love how you can solve problems. We can come to you, with any questions, and you're like, let me see what I could do. And he's like, you're like a Jedi, and we want to bring you on. And I'm like, okay. So I joined Elite in January. We launched Jedi in May. And excited to be on this roller coaster and really, get growing with Jedi.
That's awesome. So tell us, what exactly does Jedi do?
Jedi is a database managed service. So we work with mostly financial services industry, financial advisors, RIAs, people who own their own data, right? Like their own tech stack. We'll come in, we'll do analytics, we'll clean up their database, we'll manage their database, we'll do automation, workflows, artificial intelligence, make sure their systems are secure, productive, and to, like, at the end of the day, what our value prop is, and we really believe in it, is when you're thinking of your succession plan, or you're thinking of scalability, you're thinking about accessibility, there is like a growth component to it. And growth component is really well managed with systems and processes, right? And a lot of people take that for granted. And that's where we come in, right? We help firms grow through systems and processes. And if you have worked with any private equity firm, or if you've ever tried to evaluate your business, how much it is, they'll look at your book of business in a systematic way and evaluate key person risk. And we mitigate a lot of that, really create automation and workflows, and really help a firm grow.
Super cool.
I know.
Who's the ideal client here for Jedi?
RIAs that have a tech stack are looking to create an ecosystem, right? Because what happened in the past 5 to 10 years is SaaS platforms were taking off. Yep. And a lot of firms were like, oh, we want to solve this problem. Let's get this SaaS platform. We want to solve this problem. Let's get this SaaS platform. And now there's like these siloed platforms. And a lot of people don't think about it, but they're kind of inputting the same data in all the platforms, and it's causing a huge redundancy, huge inefficiency, and it's just a burden on resource time. Yeah. So where we come in is like, all right, what's your tech stack? We'll create an ecosystem. We'll create a workflow. We'll see what the inception point for any data is, and see how we can automate it, right? So yeah, RAs tend to have similar tech stacks, have the freedom with their tech stack to have managed services like us. and can trust, for us to, really help them grow.
Now, what size are you targeting there? Is this obviously not a very small shop, not the one, two person shop?
You'll be
What's
surprised.
really?
You'll be surprised. I have clients that are one user platforms.
Wow.
Yes, to 5,000.
Okay.
No, huge range there, but they all, what I like about that is it keeps it interesting. Like when you think about smaller firms, you're like, oh, they're gonna not, bring in as many problems to solve, as many technical challenges. But you'll be surprised, like a lot of these smaller firms really want to grow, they really want
Yeah.
to be tech forward, and they're like, could you automate this? Could you systematize this? Could you integrate this? And I'm like, I haven't done that before, but yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
So
I think the really interesting part about that is, I mean, the 1 to 5,000 is I certainly, and I think a lot of other people would have expected that answer to be in the 1,000 to 10,000 plus, range, just because
right.
of the size, the cost. So the fact that you can make it cost effective for a firm as small as
Mhm.
one, that is really, really impressive. I mean, so do you have basically I'm assuming for a one person shop, you've got basically a pre-built platform to some degree that is the template that you use, and then you tweak that for them and potentially others, but less so the bigger you get, or how's that work?
So for the one user platform that I am currently working with, they have Salesforce, and we're trying to create a lot of workflows, integrate a lot of stuff, like the custodian, his emails, his activities, like Calendly, project management tool, you name it, right? Like really create that ecosystem. And the reason basically we took this client on is it presented an opportunity to learn how to help smaller firms grow. When you're working with enterprise, you have a lot more freedom,
Yeah.
in the sense that they're not as cost conscious. So you could make recommendations that are, hey, let us take a month and build an AI agent and see how the prompts work. And so it's much more, to be honest with you, it's like reverse. You would think enterprise are much more intense to work with. I find like the one person team that's really trying to get most of their $1 spend, and which is fair,
Yeah.
is much more intense and micromanaging and really coming on like, hey, I really want to do this, I really want this done. Like that gratification needs to be much more immediate than for like enterprise who tend to have done this, and are like, okay, take your time, do it right,
Yeah.
instead of I want the gratification now.
Yeah. No, that's a huge difference. I mean, yeah, the enterprises, they're fine with it taking a long time. They just want it to work well so that everybody looks good and that they looks like they've made a good decision.
You know
Fantastic.
why, Matt? Like another reason for that is like the impact effect.
Yeah,
Right? Like if you have 5,000 users, you don't have room for that error,
that's right.
because then you'll lose your client base, right? The
Yeah.
adoption of the change management is going to suffer thereafter. So you really want to get to as close to the point of perfection as you can.
Yep.
Whereas with one or two users, there's more room for error. Not that there should be, but there's more room
Yeah.
for error because there isn't like a testing team. There isn't not much happening in that way. You kind of build it, you expose it, you deploy it, and you're living in the sandbox.
Yeah.
you know?
Nope, 100%. I think that's really, really fascinating, and I applaud you guys for taking on that the whole spectrum. I mean, I think that's really fantastic that you can even attempt that, because I think a lot of companies will choose choose one or the other, but certainly not both. So I think that's fantastic. Good for you.
You
Um,
bring me a good problem, I'll try and solve it.
that's right. I love it. So tell me about the Jedi Council.
I love that I counsel. So, Elite has a podcast. It's called Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa. And there is the Jedi Council, which I'm part of. And we'll have podcasts that we kind of release every week on Saturdays, and we'll do interesting topics like how is AI impacting financial services? How can you leverage it? Like, what is Jedi? How does security look within CRMs? It's a fun topic. So hopefully people listen in and gain some value out of it.
That's excellent. No, I think those are fantastic topics, and we will definitely be linking to it here in the links below and everything else. But why don't we do a sampling of some of that? Because I think those are great
Yeah.
topics, and let's give the listeners a little taste. So you mentioned what was it? AI in CRMs. So let's dive into a few of those and hear your thoughts on them.
You're gonna have to, you'll regret this in just 20 seconds because artificial intelligence is one of my favorite topics.
I love it.
Uh,
Me too. I think it's a lot of people's favorite topics. It's great.
yeah, I mean, especially nowadays. So I'll start off with I attended an AI conference a couple of weeks ago. One of my dear friends was gracious enough to invite me. I'm not even kidding you, Matt. Like, I got on that table and I'm like, I feel unworthy. I felt so unworthy. These people have been in AI for 40 years, met some really cool, it was a small table panel, met some really cool people. And one of the idea that someone said was in a couple of years, it'll be agents talking to agents, right? Think of CRM not as like this tech, like this bulky database. It's going to be an agent that's going to know exactly what to do. You don't have to really even prompt it, right? You input an information, it knows exactly where to take it. It could research, it could do everything. And what was really cool about that statement is like, and then once, let's say the agent is filling out an application, right? Like you have a new client onboarding in financial services, you're bringing on a new client, you're transferring your accounts. And on the other end, right, it's another agent processing that information, creating that account. And you have agents talking to agents. And just to kind of conceptualize it, it's so cool,
Super cool. I
right?
mean, it's like the next level for API, right? Who needs
It's the next
API
level
when
for APIs, exactly right.
yeah. I mean, I think that's fantastic. Super cool. Okay, I love it. Okay, so that's AI and CRM. You mentioned a few other topics. I look forward to actually checking out that episode. I think that's super cool. What are some other topics that you mentioned there that we can dive into?
So we did securities on CRM recently. So a lot of financial advisors that I work with tend to have Salesforce.
Yep.
I mean, it's depending on the size, right? It's Wealthbox, Redtail, Salesforce, FSC within Salesforce. And as far as Salesforce is concerned, security has like multiple layers.
Mhm.
So you could do data masking, encryption, right? You could have security on field level, object level, org level, profile level, meaning only relevant data should be exposed to people who need to see it, right? Like most of it should be hidden. Not every field should be visible to everyone.
Right.
If you have, as an example, if you have interns working for the summer, maybe social security tax IDs are not something that you expose liberally, right?
Right.
Or mother's maiden name or financial account information, because there's a lot that you could lose if you're exposing that kind of information. Multi-factor authentication, right, or two-factor authentication. You could set up. Most of these platforms have that required or mandated at this point. So there's a lot there.
Yeah. There really is. Well, you also mentioned AI in terms of using agents in what you're doing there at Jedi. So I think that's even more to the point. So let's discuss that. What are some options that you're exploring, some things that you're doing, and ways that you can use AI to help your Jedi clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been optimistically cautious has been our approach.
It's a good thing.
And this there is with artificial intelligence, there's a risk of hallucination, right? A lot of financial advisors are afraid to leverage artificial intelligence because they're like, we don't know if the information is correct. So what I often tell people is if you have subject matter expertise, even to a minute level, that's the information that you could truly rely on and speak to with AI. I'll give you a really interesting simple example. Recently, I was watching an animated movie. It was on television. I was home and I'm watching this movie and I'm like, I'm curious, like, when was the first time this kind of movie was created? And I kind of had a hinge on what the answer was. So, that SME factor.
Hmm.
And I'm like, so I actually was chat GPT. I'm like, hey, by the way, when was this type of movie first released? And it came up with an answer. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So I said, wait, when was this movie released? And ChatGPT gave me a date. I'm like, wouldn't that make your answer wrong? And then it basically responded back and said, thank you for correcting me. I stand corrected. I'm like, wow. So there has to be like you may need to be a little bit aware of the topic that you're asking instead of just like prompting it and just leveraging that in a presentation. Like I know a lot of students are doing these days, but yeah. So we leverage AI in content creation or getting ideas for podcast. We have a marketing team where we could, kind of optimize some of the initial drafts that we create. I use AI, if I'm drafting a prospect presentation or there's this verbiage. So a lot of content generation or summarization, I would say, are the two words. Maybe image generation, right, to make it more unique. But those are essentially the three categories that I would say we're leveraging it for today. The other idea is like if you have marketing, if you have emails coming in, you could actually use keywords, right? Like if it has like sentiment analysis, right? Like how are people feeling when they're saying this, create like a score within CRM and
Yeah.
really take it to the next level. Like, hey, if there's words like dissatisfied, that's a blatant one, but dissatisfied, maybe send them something like prompt an email outreach that's like raises their level of sentiment a little bit, whatever that happens to be.
Yep.
So stuff like that is cool.
Oh, no, 100%. And I think when it comes to content creation, summarization, and image, creation, I think we've seen even in I'd say the last few months, the progress has been exceptional. It just keeps getting, so much better. And yeah, it's not quite there
It's
on
not quite
necessarily
there.
the. I think interestingly, I don't know if you've played around with like Grok's newest,
Mhm.
release.
Yeah.
Grok with their deep search and being able to see the thinking.
Yes.
I think is absolutely fantastic. And it just mind blowing to see it thinking through. And it's like, oh no, but you wanted me to talk about this. So
Yes.
let me go think
Yes.
about that. Oh no, that makes this wrong. So let me go. And it's just kind of brilliant to see. And it really makes me wonder as you look at these, this generative AI and people talking about, well, will there, this whole, you know, will AI ever really, kind of surpass us? And a lot of people think it will, and for sure, there's an obvious, there's a pretty clear path to
Super
that now, I
intelligence.
think, right? But you start thinking about it, like how we learn and how we create. I, Even like the Da Vinci's, the very brilliant genius creators, it's all, iterated on, they're all standing on the shoulders of giants, right? It's all just an adjustment, a tweak of what we've already learned. We don't have, I don't think we have anybody who came out of nowhere and created some crazy new ideas that just comes and it's like, oh, so even the most creative, there you're still building on tons of other stuff that you've learned and pieced together, which makes me wonder how much different is it really than the way we learn, with generative AI? Is it actually that much different than how we learn? And it's just a matter of, oh, it's got to get there because if you took a baby and gave them all this information from the internet and not the physical world where they're moving around and they're learning language, taking years to learn it, Wouldn't we be in
What would
kind
the
of the
kid
same
be?
spot? Like, how
Oh my
different would
God.
we be?
I have so many thoughts to all of those statements. So, one is I was actually talking to a friend recently, and we were talking about original thought. Like, are we as humans capable of original thought?
Yeah.
And to your point, I wonder if it's just iterative, right? Like you hear like social norms, subliminal messaging, right? You hear things and you start building on it subconsciously. The other thought I had is years ago, almost a decade ago, I was partially involved in predictive analysis. I was at a law firm. I was doing business intelligence, and I was working. I was trying to create a predictive algorithm that would essentially tell the firm which settlements, which cases had, the probability of highest settlements and what were the variables. So I worked with this amazing guy back then. He was a scrum master, really smart. Um, and we kind of did regression analysis and removed all the noise. And we were able to kind of get to, and this is going to be an interesting wording, a human cognition ability. Because the first time we showed it to the senior partner, like, here are the 5 cases that are going to most likely give you the highest settlement. He's like, I knew that. I said, but that's the point. You knew that in your mind, and we were able to show you as a data-driven way that your gut feeling of 30 years of, being as a litigation person, as a lawyer, got us in like the past 90 days, we were able to build that. He's like, okay, fair, I give you that. Right. So to your point of how humans learn, right? Like, we're just exposed to so much, like, how they say kids are sponges, right? They're absorbing colors and noise and creating these associations. And if you think about LLMs, that's what they really are, right?
Yeah.
It's just like ton of information, like, this is a human, this is a cat, this is how they exist, and it's just ton, and this is how they're learning. So this is a long and short way of saying, could they develop consciousness? I have no idea.
Right. It's funny because, like, what is that, right? How do we? I don't think we have we currently don't have a scientific definition for the consciousness or how it comes to be, what sparks it, what it really is. So if Grok
Some
or
people will say
ChatGPT,
soul, Matt. Some people
right?
will say
Some
soul.
people,
I mean, how do you analyze a soul? I have no idea.
right? I mean, if Grok is running 24/7 and it's thinking and it's doing stuff, and if you like, at what point is it, this
Are
consciousness,
really thinking.
right? Is it thinking? And what's the difference, right, between its thinking and our thinking? If it's just because we're constantly, the difference is when it's sitting there all alone, you can remove all the input. And we can't do that as humans. We're plugged into this physical world where we're constantly getting input. If you
Yes.
plugged Grok into a robot, into a human form, and it was constantly getting input, well, it would never shut off, right? Just like our brain has a real hard time shutting off because there's this constant input of stimulus, which Grok
Yes.
would have in that situation. In which case, how's it any different than a human? Or maybe there really is no consciousness, and we're all just, we're just all on autopilot. It's code that's running, and maybe it's no, I know now I've pissed off a whole lot of people who are being like, well, that's you heathen, you're gonna burn for that one. Well, I don't, I'm just talking like, I don't know, just geek to geek, is it possible that it's all just code, right? We're just genetic code, and so we've got this
Just
body.
genetic codes. I would agree with you. I would agree with you. Coming from a family of, my dad was a physicist, is a physicist. Well, he's in banking, so that's why he was a physicist, but
Nice.
he still has that core. And we often talked about, this is an atom, this is a molecule. It's like your emotional reaction is just a chemical reaction inside your body. We never really had like these cozy family conversations about oh, you're feeling okay, you'll be okay. Now it was like, look at the stars, you're so small. Like, why are you feeling so grand, right? So,
Yes, I love it.
well, yeah, but as a 10-year-old kid, you're like, I just want your attention.
Right? Can't you just listen to my problem? Your problem, in the grand scheme of things, is nothing. Why are you talking to me about something that's nothing?
See,
That's
now
fair.
you're sounding like my dad. It's
Right?
more like you're this tiny little particle in a small little galaxy with billions of stars and billions of galaxies that we don't even know about. Like, you're insignificant, Sue.
Thanks,
Doesn't
Dad.
matter. Exactly.
And yet here you are. You seem to have been you seem to have grown up okay. You've done well for yourself, despite feeling like
Question
you're
mark.
right, question mark, despite being this tiny little grain of sand on a very, very, very large beach.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
That's great. Well, you know what? Speaking of your childhood, and I really love this topic of kind of, and I think we all kind of get an insight already into how you got into tech. But what was it? Your origin story. What was it that kind of sparked your love of tech, and how did you get into it?
So, I did my bachelor's in information technology. I I love watching movies, and I used to, as a kid, create websites with just random free websites with like biography and filmography of all my favorite stars.
Cool.
And so time came for selecting a bachelor's, and my dad was like, "You should do computer science." I'm like, "Hell no." So I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a corporate lawyer. And he's like, no, like IT is it. You really should. I think you have a hidden passion, like really pursue it. So I did my, because there was not like any pre-law. So I'm like, I'm going to do information technology as my bachelor's. And I fell in love. Actually, my worst grade ever was in C++. plus plus. I had such a hard time. Oh my God, that's probably my worst grade. Otherwise, I was like a, 4.0 GPA, and then it just
And that
tanked.
one tanked you. Yep.
No, but yeah, I mean, I just fell in love with, you know, cloud platforms and kind of, it's creative, right? Like you're actually creating stuff for, I think about it's going to sound so weird. I think about all these like uh orgs that I have exposure to, and they're like tiny little children, right? Like because you create them, you kind of feed them all this information, and they're being leveraged to create a value somewhere, and I think that's kind of cool.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think anytime you create stuff, and I think that's one of the things that draws, you know, people into tech as and computer science, IT, even security, you name it. I think the first time they build something, whether it's a website, they code something, and they've created their little baby, and it's just fun to see that come to life,
Mhm.
even when it's just that first time that you made the screen do something. That's really
Hello
exciting.
world.
Yeah, hello world. Yeah, I know that one's maybe not the most exciting, but I think everybody started there. And the
Yeah.
funny part was, so I started when I was let's see, I was about 11, 12 years old, and my dad brought home this old IBM 8088, and this was, now way back in the day now. So we're talking in the 80s, and it boots up into basic, and it comes with a manual for basic. So there wasn't even a hello world, wasn't even like the standard yet when I got into it. So I was like, what the? So you're starting with, oh, print screen, then you start with print, and you got all these and you start going through the book,
Oh
and you're like, oh.
wow.
And so it was actually fun kind of going through, because you just had the syntax. This is the language. And so that kind of got me going with and the first time you can make it say, I don't think mine was hello world, but it is so much fun. I mean, that's the
It
thing
is
that
so
kind of
much
gets you
fun,
going.
especially when it's working, right? Like when
Yeah.
you like even these days, like now there's like drag and drop programming
Yeah.
a lot, right? And you're able to like pull an object in, create a workflow, and like after tedious work, it actually does what you're supposed to, and it just gets you
It's
excited.
so cool. And then, I tell you what, the thing that gets me is like, I want to sit there and enjoy it, and sometimes like you've created it for a client or something, and you want to just sit there and enjoy it, watch your
Yes.
baby grow and work and stuff, and you want to almost like stay in that zone and just like, oh, let's just build a ton of these, but you can't because
Yes.
that's not how tech works, and it's like, oh, but
Yes.
you've got to start learning this new thing, like,
Yep.
ah, right? You
Yep.
can't stay there. Yep,
You can't master anything, right? Because there's always
nothing.
something new.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, so we build, Salesforce has prompt builders, and you're able to like, they have Agent Force now, and you're able to like really create like a background prompt, um, like create like an answer for each prompt that someone may have. And it's kind of cool because it like helps you take a step back and say, what could somebody like, what are the variations of a question?
yeah,
And like feed it to the system, which is like, whoa, how many ways can a person ask the same question? And you'll be surprised, which makes me think of OCR, right? So
right. Yep,
because like if you think about OCR, like this was years back, and we were leveraging technology for reading documents like capital
yep,
costs and stuff like that. But if you have handwritten applications, that thing never took off
yep,
because humans could write any letter 7,000 different ways.
yeah,
And how do you read
yeah. You need AI to read that stuff.
it?
It was like
Exactly.
you really do, and it was like voice recognition, right? Back in the days when we were when OCR was just coming out and people were playing with voice recognition. It was so hard, and it was you had to like you even training Windows or Dragon Voice, and you're like trying to train it to your voice, and it was meh. And now, right out the gate, you could just mumbling stuff. You say stuff wrong. You've got filler words and Siri and everybody else like, yeah, we got you. It totally understands, no
So
problem.
much better.
So much, it's insane.
And that's where we go back to like think about the kind of data it took for these tech firms to get here, and sometimes we take it for granted.
Hmm.
And like think about how much stuff we are feeding the internet that they could leverage. Like just like take a step back, and just us humans, like everything that is on the World Wide Web today could train what we do.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad, by the way.
Well, you know what? It's kind of like your dad going back to you as a kid with that whole you're so like just trying to understand that. I think you can't even, I don't think it's even possible for a person to really grasp the magnitude of how much information exists on the internet. And the fact that you can train something on that and even having access to it. I mean, that it's mind blowing, and the fact that it can learn all of this stuff, it is it's incredible,
The
right?
fact that you can think that you could create a human like form based on the information that you have on the internet.
Yeah,
And by the way, you talk about hallucinations, like there's opinion categorized as facts on the internet, right?
yeah,
So if you're teaching, like, you gave the example of how do children learn, right? Like,
yep.
how does a child learn? Like, if we didn't, if we weren't able to teach children how to decipher fact versus fiction.
Well, I mean, do we though? I mean, look, and this is a great example. You look at how kids are raised in a in a particular religion, right, wrong or indifferent. That is
Well, fair,
that's the
yes.
right. That is the lens with which they see the world because you said
Human
this is our
biases.
lens. Yeah, this is your bias now. We are a whatever family. These are our rules. This is how we live our lives. Very cool, fine. But how do you, when it comes to AI and it's the whole internet, and you've got, let's just face it, a whole lot of horrible opinions and a horrible stuff out there, along with some really good stuff. Choosing that what your guiding principles are, I think becomes really important. So as you raise a kid and you're like, here's the world, and it suddenly gets all the information from the world in their head, and they're like, oh, that's horrible, right? What keeps, how do you, like, even if you took a human, like if you suddenly got all of the information from the
Wouldn't work out well.
gross, right?
Wouldn't work
Just
out well.
gross. it wouldn't be
I would
good.
short
You'd need
circuit.
therapy. You'd search. I think you'd intentionally short circuit. I think most people would be like, I mean, so much bad stuff you don't want to remember. You want to get out of your head.
Well, remember, like these days when you're thinking about social media, right? There's like an approach to there is a desire for like shock stickiness, right? Like
Yep.
attracting the limbic system. And unfortunately, it's more about anger versus love, right? Because it's stronger feeling, or
Mhm.
disgust is stronger feeling. And so it's a lot of that out there. And you then layer it up with artificial intelligence and say, oh, I'm going to use this to like create a persona. Well, better be careful because there's a lot of garbage,
Yeah.
literally garbage out there, you know?
Well, you know what's neat? Okay, so think about this. When it comes to news, right? Right now, if you look at any news source, it's like, oh, you've got that shock, right? Everybody wants to, it's all clickbait headlines, and I don't care what source you go to. They all seem to be clickbait, then it's a whole bunch of crap. Oh, and then some details at the very bottom, you're like, ugh, I didn't even get the whole story, right?
Yes.
It's not like just the facts like it used to be. It's now like,
Um,
how do I piss you off and anger you? It's like, okay,
exactly.
right? So I think it's really neat to think that, okay, we've gone from news that was attempting to be unbiased back when the news cycle was much, much slower. Then
Right,
CNN came out with their 24-hour news cycle, and suddenly the
right.
pressure to capture people's attention 24/7 was
All the
intense.
time.
Now it's all then the internet comes out, and now that intense pressure becomes insane pressure, and now everybody constantly is fighting for attention on these, and the only way to do it is either with some sort of nudity or some sort of craziness, and so it's just insane, right? Okay, but now with AI, right, you may actually be able to have, like, when you can have AI reporters instead of human reporters that are out there doing it, you may be able to get an actual, somewhat
Fact.
unbiased fact, reporting again. So on the one hand, where it may take away, you know, jobs in a lot of ways, we're kind of, and I don't really like take away jobs. I like that it kind of magnifies your ability, right? So it amplifies. We need fewer, each person
I
will be able
think
to do
so.
more. And so
Yeah,
you won't, while there'll be some downsizing, a startup can now start up with one or two employees and be like they're 10 or 20, right? You have
exactly.
one or two developers and they're acting like they're 10 or 20 developers because they're so much better. So I like that perspective better than the, oh, tons of jobs are going to go away. Not necessarily. You're just not going to work maybe for Meta. You may be working for a startup, and so a lot of people need to take that focus of, oh, I'm not going to go make $1 million a year at Google just because I've been programming for 10 years. I'm going to switch to startups. Okay, anyway, I digress. Going
No, I
back to
think
the,
that's really powerful, right? Like you think about like, Industrial Revolution. I was actually listening to a podcast recently and they were talking about like there's this fear like jobs are going to go away, right? But it may be that as, we moved away from agricultural economies into more industrial economies, that AI produces abundance in a different way, right? Like to your point, it's more augmenting and creating an abundance of maybe different kinds of jobs than saying elimination. And yeah, there might be elimination of some kind of job. That doesn't mean that there won't be others that you could benefit or more opportunities that could be created.
oh, for sure. I think that as we get, the, kind of the general AI, where you've got robots doing a lot of the manual labor, and even where AI is able to create movies that are, that look realistic. I don't think anybody's going to want to go see. I'm still going to want to see Tom Cruise doing crazy, crazy stunts himself when he's 80. I was like, I
Well,
still want to
Tom
see.
Cruise being Tom Cruise.
Right. I don't want to see AI Tom Cruise of, looking like he's 25 or 30 doing Mission
Right,
Impossible stuff. It's like it takes the soul out of it, right?
right.
And so
Soul out of it. That's the
right, going right back,
word.
right? Nice throwback, right? And I think the interesting part is I think that's where things are going to go for all the artisans and the craftsmen. So like whether it's making a watch, whether it's creating art, you're not going to it's going to be fascinating to see how AI can do it, and that'll be cool. But you're not going to pay the same amount for AI art as you will human art because it lacks that, right? And it'll just be like, I know the artist; they're really cool. I love this painting. Oh, could AI have done it better? Maybe. I don't care, right? Could
It's
AI have
more
made that?
mechanical. It's
Yeah,
more
more mechanical.
mechanical. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's, heartless. And it's like, so what? I don't want to go to a play and see robots up there doing things. I don't want to go to an opera and hear a speaker, singing it. It just makes no sense,
It's
right?
not the same.
It's not the same. So I think we'll
Yeah.
see a resurgence, like a huge kind of renaissance when it comes to performers, performers, artists, artisans, craftsmen. I think that's going to be huge in the future, which is really funny because now you tell your kids like art, what are you kidding me? You need to be studying computer science, right? But I think in the not too distant
That's
future, it's gonna be like
interesting.
art is the way to go. You like art, great, because the world needs more artists, and that you get paid bank when you're a good artist, right?
When
Because
you're a
that's
good artist.
yep.
Actually, I never thought about that, and I think that's a fair argument, right? Like I think the more we create that mechanism to automate it, the more there might be desires for that authentic look.
Well, it's the simple like luxury model, right?
It's
If
the
the
luxury model.
right the stuff that is pumped out of a factory, blah, so what? It's cheap, cheap stuff. Nobody cares. But the stuff
Right,
that's handmade, it's quality. That is worth 1,000 times more, and people pay 1,000 times more for it
right,
to be handmade by a true artisan who spent years doing it, and it holds up
right.
forever. So I think that same thing plays out with AI. I think it's very similar.
It's
I don't think the
movies
future is that
versus.
bleak, assuming they don't kill us.
Oh, wow. I'm watching this show on Apple TV called Murderbot.
Isn't it great?
Oh, you're watching it too?
Oh
I
yeah,
love that
love
show.
it. So great.
I mean, you got me at robots, so
Yeah,
of course I was going to watch it.
same. Yeah, yeah. No,
But
it's
I
it's
love
so
it.
good. But go ahead. You were gonna make a point about Murderbot.
So my point is like, he becomes rogue and is starting to feel emotions, right? He's actually caring about this team. And, I'm watching this show and like the whole time I'm telling my husband, I'm like, this is going to be us. This is going to be us. Like, I don't know, in 100 years, we're going to be on Mars. We're going to be living in a colony, right? They're going to be bots walking around. And what's really funny, and I know like there's this marketing, I follow Tesla on Instagram, right? And there's this thing that they have, a marketing image, right? Which is like back in the 30s. Remember that by Empire State Building, they have the
Yep.
sitting on poles, and they have it sounds like it's Mars, and they're like robots sitting on the pole, and it's like the rockets going up, and yeah, I mean, I love the futuristic view. I don't want to be part of it, but it's kind of cool to see.
No, 100%. I mean, I'm right there with you. Although it's going to be fascinating because you take a look at people who are now in their 80s and 90s and what they've seen, the changes, mind blowing. Like, they were black and white TV, they're going to the
Right?
moon, right? It's
Yes.
insane. And now they push a button and food shows up at their door. The car drives themselves and they've got, video conferencing on a cell phone, right?
It's insane. It's
Imagine
insane.
I think the change now for us though is it's going to be even crazier if you can imagine, because now everything's advancing so much faster,
Compounding. It's
and it's
compounding.
hard to imagine that, right? Because we've
Yeah.
already seen in our short lives how much things have changed in 10, 20, 30, 40 years. In the next 40 years, geez, it's going to be wild.
It's going to
Okay.
be a roller coaster, right? Like all the automation and the advances are going to compound
Yep.
and roll up to make it that much better. Yeah,
Yep.
it's going to be an interesting world.
It is, and I think it just comes down to like the mental flexibility. You have to be just kind of embrace it instead of that. Oh, but I really like C++. plus plus. I know you don't, but right.
No,
But
I
but there are
don't.
Fortran programmers out there who are like, I love Fortran, and it's never happening. They're holding on to that legacy, product. But for real, it's just about being flexible, right? Getting rid, upgrading your computers and your phones and your everything, and putting in the new stuff. And I think that's really challenging for people in, the older generations now. but it'll be interesting to see what happens, as kind of we age into that, if that's just a product of them having grown up without much to any technology and
Yeah.
having to adjust so much. I think that since we started out with more technology, the transition, I think, becomes it will become more natural. And it's like, yeah, of course I'm adopting, the new AI. And of course I want the new robot. And of course I think also, I think technology is getting easier, not harder. And maybe, thanks to AI, even developing technology is easier than
Oh
it
my God,
was.
yes.
I mean, I don't know if when you started building your websites, if it was pre-Google, but doing C++ before there was Google, before there was that was tough. Doing C++, now with ChatGPT and Grok and Google, it's like, seriously, you couldn't figure it out? Like now it's a lot easier. It's insanely easy.
By the
Even when
way,
yeah.
Matt, I never said I was able to learn C++ successfully. So I don't know if I could
I think
ever write a successful code in C++.
I say that you should pick it up now with the help of like Grok or
Oh,
ChatGPT, and you would be like,
interesting.
I bet it would be like that. You'd be like, how do I do this? Oh, do that. Oh, no shit. That's how. Oh, why didn't they just say so?
Oh my
Because
God.
you got stuck on like one thing that like you didn't catch in the book or the teacher didn't tell you, and then you're like, oh, and then it didn't make sense. And then as you're doing it, then Grok will be like, but and you're like, oh shit, okay. I bet you'll have an easy time with it. I think it'll be super
Oh my
easy for you.
God.
I bet you would just crush it really fast. You'd be like, shit, that was hard. What was I?
You've inspired me.
You
It's
should
done and
totally try it.
done.
Like
You've
pick it up for an
inspired me.
hour and be like, let me try this. And then you'd be like, hey Matt, look what I did. Yep.
I'm gonna send you the hello world next time.
Yes. Do it. I love it. All right. Sue, this has been awesome. I can't thank you enough for coming on. But
My
before we
pleasure.
hop off, can you tell everybody where they can find out more about you and Jedi and the Jedi Council, of course?
As Jedi Council, please listen to our podcast at eliteconsultingpartners.com. It's Advisor Talk by Frank LaRosa. You could find out about Jedi Database Solutions at Jedi. I can't put my words together anymore. This is how exhausted I am.
It was just too excited, too much excitement.
Jedi Database Solutions.com. You could reach me at Sue at eliteconsultingpartners.com, and I look forward to meeting more people and connecting with them.
Awesome. Thanks, Sue. Till next time.
Thank you, Matthew. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Cyber Business Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.